first case of Ebola now here in the United States. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention confirming the first American case of the deadly virus now being diagnosed at a hospital in Dallas. What you need to know this morning. Good morning. Here I'm Bill Hemmer, and welcome to America's Newsroom. A whole different wrinkle in the story now.
It sure is. Good morning, Bill. Good morning, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum. So the unidentified patient, now in isolation. The situation is said to be contained. He traveled here from Liberia. No symptoms shown until 9 days after he arrived. Went to the doctor once, came back, went back again. The director of the CDC trying to make sure everybody remains calm.
I have no doubt that we will control this importation or this case of Ebola so that it does not spread widely in this country. It is certainly possible that someone who had contact with this individual, a family member or other individual, could develop Ebola in the coming weeks. But there is no doubt in my mind that we will stop it here.
Officials, though, remaining cautious, trying to find out who else was in contact with this patient, and that may not be easy. John Roberts, CDC headquarters in Atlanta. We start there. Where does the response go from here, John?
Good morning to you, Bill. Well, first thing they got to do is they've got to care for this patient, and sources tell me that this patient, this person who came from Liberia to the United States back on the 20th of September, is very, very ill. May, in fact, have begun to experience multiple organ failure. And if that is the case with a virus like Ebola and Ebola virus disease, it's going to take some pretty high-end medical care to bring them back, because that is the beginning of the end stage of the disease. What the CDC is going to do now is the long and painstaking process of contact tracing, find out who this person was in contact with on the travels on the way over here, and then once they got to the United States. The CDC believes that because he was asymptomatic on that long flight from Monrovia to wherever he picked up a flight to come to the United States, the likelihood that he passed the virus on to somebody else is probably fairly minimal. But they do believe that once he became symptomatic, 4 days after he landed here in the United States on the 24th of September, anyone who he came in contact with could be at danger of transmission of the virus. Here's what Dr. Frieden told me just a few minutes ago.
We already know of a handful of people, family members, several community members. We'll be looking at the hospital, at every interaction there, any transports to the hospital. All of those are situations that we have a 9-person team on the ground in Dallas now, helping local and state health department to identify and monitor.
Yeah, as you can imagine, it's going to be a very painstaking process to try to get in touch with everybody that this guy potentially came in contact with. Maybe as many as 18 people, including ambulance attendants, who drove him to the hospital on the 28th. He came in actually in the 26th, went home, and then was so sick by the 28th that he had to come in an ambulance, and of course all the medical workers at the Texas Health Presbyterian Hospital who came in contact with him. And as you can imagine, there's also a lot of rumors flying about this. Somebody tweeted out a little while ago reports of a second patient in Dallas. I checked with both the CDC and the Dallas County Health and Human Services. They say so far no reports of any other patients. They would not be surprised, they say, if there's another patient, but they don't know of any other patients.
They're really trying to go back over his steps, John. And how can they be sure that no one on the plane was infected, or can they?
Well, as I said, they are pretty certain that nobody else could have become infected, because they say it's very difficult to transmit this disease when you are asymptomatic. But remember back to the case of Dr. Rick Sacra, who was recently released from Nebraska Medical Center. He was working as an obstetrician at a hospital in Monrovia, Liberia. All of his patients were screened before they came to see him, and they were all found to be asymptomatic, yet he did come down with the disease. Now, he had very intimate contact with these patients, delivering babies, doing cesarean sections, a lot of blood, et cetera, et cetera. So a higher level of contact, but it can apparently, Bill, be transmitted even if the person is asymptomatic.
Wow, we're still learning a lot about it. Thank you. John Roberts leading our coverage there, CDC in Atlanta.